I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white as the snow pelting my windshield. The Colorado Rockies loomed like silent giants, their peaks swallowed by a blizzard that had no business raging in early spring. 9 hours on the road, 9 hours of squinting through whiteouts, of my SUV's tires clawing at icy pavement, of my heart pounding with the hope that this would be the moment my sister Lily and I finally stitched our fraying bond back together. In my passenger seat, strapped in like a fragile passenger, sat a vanilla lavender cake, her favorite, its delicate fondant flowers trembling with every jolt of the road. I'd ordered it weeks ago from a boutique bakery in Denver, paid extra for the gold-dusted violets that screamed her name. This wasn't just a cake. It was a peace offering, a promise that I'd show up for her, no matter the cost. The radio crackled, spitting out a staticky warning. Blizzard advisory, stay off the roads. Too late for that. I'd left my cozy apartment in Boulder at dawn, the city's golden sunrise fading in my rear view as I chased the dream of surprising Lily at her engagement gala in Aspen. My little sister, the one I'd braided hair for, the one I'd defended when Mom called her too wild, was getting married. I pictured her face lighting up when I walked in, cake in hand, her arms flinging around me like they used to. That image kept me going as the wind howled, as my wipers fought a losing battle against the snow. Then it happened. A rumble, low and guttural, like the mountain itself was growling. My headlights caught a cascade of rocks tumbling across the highway, a rock slide breaking free from the cliff above. My breath hitched. I yanked the wheel hard, my SUV fishtailing as gravel pinged off the hood. The cake box lurched, but the seatbelt held it fast. My heart slammed against my ribs as I skidded to a stop, inches from a boulder the size of a fridge. For a moment, I just sat there, the engine humming, my hands shaking. The road ahead was blocked, but a narrow shoulder to the right beckoned. I eased forward, praying the tires wouldn't slip into the ravine yawning below. I made it past, but the adrenaline didn't fade. This trip was already testing me, and I hadn't even reached the party. Hours later, the estate came into view, a glowing beacon of wealth nestled in Aspen's snowy embrace. Gold lights twinkled along wrought iron gates, and the faint hum of a string quartet drifted through the storm. My tires crunched on fresh snow as I pulled up to the valet stand. I was drenched, my coat clinging to me like a second skin, my boots caked in mud from a gas station stop where I'd changed into heels in a grimy restroom. The valet, a kid barely out of high school, blinked at me. "You delivering for the caterer?" he asked, eyeing the cake box in my arms. I forced a laugh, though it felt like swallowing glass. "No, I'm family. Claire Harper, sister of the bride-to-be." His blank stare told me my name wasn't on any list he'd seen. I brushed it off, chalking it up to a mix-up. I handed him my keys and stepped into the warmth of the mansion, the air thick with vanilla and roses. But the chill in my spine didn't thaw. Heads turned as I entered, women in glittering gowns and men in tailored tuxes glancing over their shoulders. Their lips tightened, their eyes narrowed, like I'd tracked mud across their perfect world. I smoothed my dress, suddenly hyper-aware of the wet hem and my wind-tangled hair. I scanned the room for Lily. There she was, radiant in a silk blush dress, her auburn curls cascading like a movie star's. She was laughing, her head tilted toward a groomsman whispering in her ear. Then her eyes landed on me. Her smile didn't just falter. It vanished, replaced by a flicker of something cold, something calculated. "Claire?" she said, her voice sharp enough to cut. "You're here?" I swallowed the lump in my throat, holding the cake box like a shield. "Drove all day to surprise you," I said, forcing a grin. "Happy engagement, Lil." I lifted the box slightly, expecting her to rush over, to squeal like she did when we were kids. Instead, she stayed rooted, her gaze darting to the groomsmen, then back to me. "I didn't think you'd make it in this weather," she said, her tone flat, like I was an uninvited guest at a funeral. "Surprise," I replied, my voice thinner than I meant it to be. I set the cake on a side table next to trays of macarons and champagne flutes. The box looked out of place, its gold ribbon too earnest for this polished crowd. A bridesmaid, tall, blonde, dripping in diamonds, leaned toward Lily, her whisper loud enough to slice through the quartet's music. "She's not on the list, is she?" My stomach dropped. I tried to laugh it off, but Lily's face confirmed it. This wasn't shock. This was strategy. She muttered, "I'll be right back," and slipped into a side hallway, leaving me standing there, the cake abandoned beside me. The room spun slightly, the chatter and clinking glasses blurring into a hum. I was a ghost in my sister's fairy tale, and I hadn't even realized I'd been written out. I wandered deeper into the mansion, passing a grand staircase draped in fairy lights. My mother, Evelyn, stood by a roaring fireplace, her navy dress and pearls screaming old money. I approached, hoping for a familiar anchor. She offered an air kiss, her lips barely grazing my cheek. "Just don't make this about you, Claire," she said, her smile tight as a drum. "Tonight's for Lily." "Of course," I said, my voice cracking. She glanced at my soaked coat and frowned, like I'd offended her by existing. I moved on, my heels clicking on marble, passing framed engagement photos. Lily and her fiancé Mark, beaming in black and white. Lily with her bridesmaids, all in matching shawls. Not a single photo included me. I might as well have been a stranger. By the dessert table, I caught the tail end of a giggle. "Every family's got a drama queen," a woman in emerald silk said, not bothering to lower her voice. "Bet she thinks this is her party." Her friend snickered, their eyes flicking to me. I pretended not to hear, but my cheeks burned. I found the coat room, desperate for a moment to breathe. Inside, an ornate tray held bridal party gifts. Sparkling bracelets, handwritten cards. I scanned the names. Lily, Tara, Emily. No Claire. My chest tightened, like the air had been sucked out of the room. Then my phone buzzed. A group text from Lily's bridal party, one I wasn't supposed to see. I opened it, my fingers trembling. A message from Lily, time-stamped that morning. "She doesn't fit the vibe. We'll say the guest list was full." My throat closed. The words blurred as my eyes stung. This wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. I stepped outside, the cold biting my face, the snow swallowing my heels. I needed air, needed to escape the perfumed cage of that mansion. The wind howled, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside me. Then I heard it. A voice, familiar, cutting through the gale, Lily's voice, followed by Tara's laugh. I froze, pressing myself against the wall near a service entrance. Their shadows danced on the snow just around the corner. "I can't believe she actually drove here," Tara said, her voice dripping with mockery. 9 hours through a blizzard for what? A pity cake. Lily's laugh was sharp, cruel. Honestly, I could have used the silence if she'd crashed on the way. My blood turned to ice. I backed away, my boots sinking into the snow, my heart a drumbeat in my ears. I stumbled toward a side door, my vision blurring. Inside, I found a restroom, locked myself in a stall, and let the tears come. Silent, hot, they slid down my cheeks, soaking into my coat. I didn't sob. I didn't scream. I just broke, piece by piece, like the cake I'd carried so carefully. I couldn't stay. I slipped through a service exit, past a kitchen where the cake sat untouched, its gold ribbon mocking me. The wind outside was merciless, but it stung less than their words. I reached my SUV, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the keys. The engine roared to life, but the road ahead was a blur of snow and betrayal. I drove blindly, the highway a slick ribbon of danger. A deer darted across the road, its eyes glowing in my headlight. I swerved, my tires skidding, the cake box long gone but its weight still heavy in my chest. I didn't crash, but I was close. Too close. I didn't go home. I couldn't face my empty apartment, the photos of Lily and me on the fridge, the memories I'd clung to like lifelines. Instead, I found a motel off the interstate, its neon sign flickering like a bad omen. I paid in cash, gave a fake name, and locked myself in a room that smelled of stale coffee and regret. I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, my coat still on, the TV's drone a hollow companion. Lily's words played on a loop in my head. I could have used the silence. My sister, the one I'd driven through a storm for, had wished me gone. Morning came, gray and heavy. My phone blinked with notifications. 14 missed calls, none from Lily or Mom. Texts from cousins, aunts, even a family friend, all spinning the same story. You made a scene, Claire. Why'd you storm out? Not one asked if I was okay. I scrolled through Instagram, my thumb hesitating over Lily's profile. There she was, beaming in a photo from the gala, surrounded by her bridesmaids in white fur shawls. The caption read, "A perfect night with all the people I love." I wasn't tagged. I wasn't mentioned. I wasn't there. I stared at the photo, my reflection ghostly in the motel's cracked mirror. This wasn't new. High school graduation, no family in the stands. My first job, no congratulations. My last birthday, a generic card with no signature. But this was different. This was deliberate. A knife twisted with precision. I opened my camera roll, found the proof. A selfie from the gas station, my face red from the wind, the cake box in my arm. A photo of the snowy road, my windshield half obscured. A shot of the cake, still perfect, still abandoned. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the villain they wanted me to be. I checked out of the motel, my breath visible in the frigid air. The highway back to Boulder was quieter now, the storm easing, but the road still treacherous. A patch of black ice sent my SUV spinning, my hands jerking the wheel as I fought to stay on the pavement. The world tilted, then righted itself. I pulled over, my pulse racing, and laughed. A bitter, broken sound. I'd survived the storm, the rock slide, the ice, the betrayal, but for what? To be erased? Back in my apartment, I sat at my kitchen table, coffee gone cold. My phone buzzed again. Lily. I didn't want to answer, but something in me, stubborn maybe, pressed accept. Her face filled the screen, polished and perfect, her mascara still flawless from the gala. You picked the worst time to ghost, she said, not even a hello. People are asking questions, Claire. I didn't speak. I let her words hang, let her squirm in the silence. She leaned closer, her voice softening, like she could charm her way out. You always overreact. You take things too personally. This wasn't about you. I straightened, my voice steady as steel. I nearly died getting to your party, Lily. I drove through a blizzard with a cake you didn't even touch. I heard you laugh about me crashing, about how my absence would have been convenient. She blinked, her mouth opening, then closing. You weren't supposed to hear that, she said, like it fixed anything. I was nervous. I say dumb things. Not dumb, I said, my eyes locked on hers. Cruel. You erased me, Lily. No seat, no photos, no acknowledgement. You made me a ghost at your engagement. She scoffed, that sharp laugh she used when cornered. You're making this a whole thing? I'm not the villain here. Then stop acting like one, I shot back. I muted her, watching her lips move, her hands waving, her eyes wild with frustration. For 30 seconds I let her talk, to nothing. Then I ended the call. One tap, no drama. For the first time, I wasn't begging for her to see me. I was done. I opened my laptop, my fingers steady now. I attached the cake receipt, a photo of the snowy road, the untouched box in the kitchen. The email went to Lily, Evelyn, and Aunt Nora. Subject: truth. One sentence in the body. This is what I carried through a storm for you. I hit send, my heart pounding but not breaking. Not anymore. An hour later, Evelyn replied, "This isn't helping, Claire. No apology, no regret. Just 4 words to dismiss 9 hours. A cake, a sister." I leaned back, the radiator hissing beside me. My phone lit up again. A coworker's Slack message. "Heard about a meltdown at a fancy Aspen Gala. That you?" I checked Instagram. Lily had posted a new story, a champagne glass in her hand, her head thrown back in laughter. Caption: "Sometimes jealousy wears a familiar face." She didn't tag me, but she didn't need to. The knife was sharp enough. I opened a folder on my desktop labeled Proof. Photos, receipts, a video of the cake through the kitchen window. I wasn't ready to post it, not yet. But I would. Not for revenge, but for me. Because I wasn't the storm they wanted me to be. I was the clearing sky. And I was just getting started. The snow had softened to a gentle drift outside my Boulder apartment, but inside my world was a wildfire. I sat at my kitchen table, the glow of my laptop casting shadows across the room, the email to Lily, Evelyn, and Aunt Nora still open. "This is what I carried through a storm for you." The words stared back at me, unyielding, like the truth I'd finally let loose. My phone buzzed, a Slack message from my coworker Jess. "Heard about a meltdown at a fancy Aspen Gala. That you?" My pulse spiked. I opened Instagram and there it was. Lily's story, a champagne glass glinting in her hand, her head thrown back in laughter. Sometimes jealousy wears a familiar face. No tag, no name, but the jab was unmistakable. My sister had taken our private betrayal and smeared it across the internet for her 10,000 followers to dissect. I leaned back, the radiator hissing like a warning. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was war, and Lily had fired the first public shot. I opened the folder on my desktop labeled Proof. Photos of the snow-covered roads, the cake receipt, a video of the untouched box through the kitchen window. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to post, to fight fire with fire. But something stopped me. Not fear, not doubt, but a clarity I hadn't felt in years. If I was going to tell my story, it wouldn't be a petty clapback. It would be a reckoning. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "You didn't hear this from me, but Mark just postponed the engagement dinner with his parents," said something came up. I stared at the screen, my breath catching. Mark, Lily's fiancé, the golden boy with the law firm job and the perfect smile, was pulling back. Was it because of me? Because of the email? I didn't know, but the crack in Lily's perfect narrative felt like a small victory. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The truth was doing its work. The next morning, Saturday, I drove to Aunt Nora's house in Boulder for a family brunch. The invitation had come via a curt text from Evelyn. "Be there, don't cause trouble." I almost didn't go, but I wasn't running anymore. I pulled on a black sweater and jeans, nothing flashy, nothing to prove. The sky was clear, the Rockies sharp against the horizon, but I felt the storm brewing inside me. I parked outside Nora's craftsman-style home, its porch lined with potted ferns, and braced myself. This wasn't just brunch. It was a battlefield. Nora greeted me at the door, her gray hair pulled into a loose bun, her eyes softer than I expected. She squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "Don't let them make you small, Claire." Her words landed like a shield, but I wasn't sure I could wield it yet. Inside, the dining room was a stage set for pretense. white platters of sliced melon, pastries, and mimosas, the air thick with syrup and tension. Family members in cream sweaters and pressed slacks milled about, their smiles as brittle as the croissants. Lily stood at the far end, a champagne flute in her hand, her blush-pink dress screaming main character energy. I took a seat by the window, where no one had to meet my eyes. Most didn't. Lily tapped her glass, the room falling silent. "I just want to say," she began, her voice dripping with practiced sweetness, "this week has reminded me how beautiful it is when family chooses love over ego." The dig was surgical, aimed straight at me. A cousin coughed. Eyes darted my way, then away. I sipped my orange juice, the acid sharp on my tongue. I was done pretending I didn't hear the venom beneath her words. I stood, my chair scraping the hardwood. "Mind if I say something too?" Lily's smile froze. Nora's fork hovered midair. The room held its breath. "I drove 9 hours through a blizzard for your party, Lily," I said, my voice steady but loud enough to carry. "I brought a cake I paid for with my own money, a cake you left untouched while you and your friends laughed about me dying on the road." Gasps rippled across the table. Tara, the blonde bridesmaid from the gala, choked on her mimosa. Evelyn's face drained of color, her wine glass trembling in her hand. Lily shook her head, her curls bouncing. "Claire, you're taking it out of context." "No," I cut in, pulling my phone from my pocket. "Let me give you the context." I hit play, and the room filled with the recording I'd made outside the service entrance, Lily's voice unmistakable. 9 hours for what? A pity cake? Tara's giggle followed. What if she'd crashed? Imagine the sympathy and the silence. The audio was a blade, slicing through the room's fragile civility. Lily's fiancé, Mark, stared at her, his jaw tight, like he was seeing her for the first time. Evelyn reached for her wine, her hand shaking. No one spoke. No one could. Lily lunged toward me, her flute clattering to the table. "You don't get to twist this," she snapped, her voice cracking. "You're trying to ruin my moment." I stepped back, my phone still in hand. "You twisted it when you decided humiliation was easier than honesty," I said, louder now, the words spilling out like they'd been locked up too long. "You needed a villain so badly you forgot what it cost to make one." The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it was sharp, cutting through years of unspoken grudges. I didn't wait for dessert. I walked to the door, my boots steady on the hardwood. Nora followed, her hand light on my back. "You didn't just clear your name, honey," she whispered. "You burned their whole script." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The truth was loud enough. Back in my apartment, I sat on my couch, the weight of the brunch settling into my bones. My phone lit up with notifications. A text from Monica, a childhood friend. "Did you hear? Engagement dinner's off. Mark's parents asked for a pause." I blinked, the words sinking in. The unraveling was faster than I'd expected. Then came Nora's Instagram post, vague but pointed. "Truth burns at first, but it sets you free if you're ready. No names, but everyone would know." Then I saw it. A family group chat, one I wasn't in, forwarded by a cousin who'd taken pity on me. A photo from the brunch, me standing with my phone mid-speech. The caption, "Unhinged, attention-seeking just like always." Evelyn had replied with a thumbs up. Tara added, "We tried to include her. She's the one who makes everything dramatic." The narrative was spreading, a virus rewriting me as the problem. I wasn't surprised, but it still stung. I opened Instagram again, my fingers trembling. A Denver wedding gossip blog had picked up Lily's story, spinning a tale of a disruptive sister who crashed an elite gala and had a breakdown. My mouth went dry. This wasn't just family gossip anymore. It was public, and it was a lie. I could feel the walls closing in, the the world swallowing their version of me whole. But I wasn't done. I opened my proof folder, my heart pounding. I selected 3 images: the cake in the snow-lit kitchen, my frost-covered windshield after 9 hours on the road, and a selfie outside the venue, my hair wet, my cheeks red, the cake box in my arms. I typed a caption. Sometimes you show up for people who wouldn't shovel your name off a sidewalk. Some things you do out of love. Some things teach you who deserves it. I turned off comments after 2 hours when the likes and messages started pouring in. Some supportive, some confused, some demanding the full story. I wasn't ready to give it all yet, but I'd given enough. Then I did something reckless. I opened my email, attached a PDF of the group chat screenshot and Lily's Instagram post, and sent it to the PR department of Mark's law firm. No commentary, just the raw materials. If he wanted a marriage built on curated lies, he deserved to see how they were constructed. I whispered to myself, not revenge, consequences. My hands didn't shake, my voice didn't waver. For the first time, I felt steady. That evening, the snow returned, tapping softly against my windows. My phone buzzed. A text from Tara. You didn't hear this from me, but Mark just postponed the engagement dinner with his parents, said something came up. I didn't respond. I curled up on my couch, lit a candle, and pulled a blanket over my legs. The storm wasn't me anymore. I was the break in the clouds. Monday morning brought a new email from Evelyn. Subject: enough. You've embarrassed our family enough, Claire. You're lucky you were even invited. Don't ruin Lily's future out of jealousy. Attached was a screenshot from a private group chat titled Family Core Planning Only. I wasn't in it, but they'd been talking about me. Lily. She's not well. She's always twisted things. She'll spin this into a sob story. Evelyn's reply, a thumbs up. Tara, we tried to include her. She's the one who's dramatic. The words were a punch, but I was done bruising. I leaned back, the radiator's hiss a steady rhythm. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was awake. Jess slacked me again. Someone shared a screenshot of a vague IG post about a meltdown bride's sister. You okay? I checked Lily's profile. Another post, pastel-filtered, her holding champagne, laughing. Sometimes jealousy wears a familiar face, but real love shines through. The gossip blog had reposted it, amplifying the lie. My story was becoming a public spectacle, and I was the villain in their script. But I had my own script now. I opened a blank post on my laptop. Sometimes it takes a blizzard to see clearly. This is for anyone who's ever been made to feel too much just for existing. I saved it as a draft, not ready to hit publish. My voice didn't need a spotlight yet. It needed space to breathe. Then my phone vibrated. One word, please. From Lily. I stared at it, my heart steady, my hands still. I didn't miss... Not the real her, the one who'd laughed about my death. I missed who I'd hoped she could be. I let the message sit, unread but not unseen, like a wound I'd stopped picking at. A week later, I called her. I wasn't sure why, maybe to see if there was anything left to salvage. Her voice was small, almost unrecognizable. You just left me, Claire, she whispered. You disappeared after everything. I leaned into my couch, the same spot I'd sat in after the gala. That's how I felt since I was 9, Lily, I said. No venom, just truth. You erased me long before I walked away. She didn't fight. She didn't spin. I messed up, she said, her voice breaking. I was cruel. I didn't want you there because I knew people would compare us, and I hated that feeling. Then you should have told me, I said. I'd have sent the cake. I wouldn't have driven through a blizzard to be your punchline. Silence, then. I started therapy this week. I closed my eyes, part disbelief, part relief. Mark hasn't spoken to me since the brunch. He needs time to figure things out. Good, I said. Silence can be louder than screaming. She started crying, real tears, not the performative kind. I didn't comfort her, but I didn't hang up. I don't hate you, Lily, I said finally, but I can't go back to being your shadow. We hung up, no drama, just done. That night I opened my draft, I reread it, tweaked it, and hit post. To the quiet one at the table, you are not invisible. You don't need their permission to speak. Sometimes your story begins where their lies end. Notifications flooded in. Old classmates, co-workers, even distant cousins. Some apologized, some said thank you. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The next morning, I walked to a bakery near my apartment, the same one that made Lily's cake. I ordered something simple, white frosting, gold dust, no names. Back home, I lit a candle on it, sliced a piece, and sat by the window. The snow had melted, puddles reflecting the sky. I ate in silence, not because I was alone, but because I was enough. Mark texted me that afternoon. I'm sorry, Claire. You didn't deserve that. I heard everything, and I should have spoken up. It wasn't forgiveness he offered. It was accountability. It didn't fix the hurt, but it meant I wasn't crazy. Tara texted too, brief and raw. I'm not proud of who I was that night. I didn't respond to either. Their words were theirs to carry now. Days later, I drove past the Aspen estate. The snow was gone, the lights still twinkling like nothing had happened. Through a window, I saw the cake box, still sealed, still untouched. I snapped a photo, not for revenge, but for proof, because someday someone might ask, was it really that bad? And I'd say, yes. And here's what they didn't see. I posted one final image that week, a selfie in my apartment, the new cake in the background, my smile small but real. Caption: sometimes the storm doesn't destroy, it clears the air. The likes didn't matter. The comments didn't either. What mattered was the truth, mine, finally loud enough to drown out their lies.